They were loud, crowded, and smelled like 10 kinds of burnt fruit. Today was worse than usual. He had been sent by Earth's new diplomatic team to a trade summit on Yector Station, a massive space hub floating above a red dwarf star. Over 100 alien species had gathered here, and Jack already regretted showing up. Jack stood near a glowing stall that sold something called screaming peppers, trying not to sneeze. His translator chip buzzed in his ear, struggling. To keep up with the arguments around him, he checked his datapad. 1 hour left, he muttered. Then things went sideways. A loud roar cut through the air. A tall alien woman wearing silver armor stormed through the crowd, knocking over crates of glowing fruit. Her skin was a deep violet, her eyes sharp and golden. Her name was Commander Viewership of the Zikala Matronate. She looked like she could lift a truck. She was chasing another alien, a lizard-like traitor with long arms and too many teeth. Jack barely had time to react. The lizard ran straight toward him. Jack stepped in the way on instinct, trying to calm things down. Hey, what's going on?" Jack asked, hands raised. The lizard shoved Jack aside, but Varel didn't slow down. She reached into a pouch at her belt and pulled out a small metal ring filled with red ink. She threw it fast like a dart. The lizard ducked. Jack did not. Splat that. Ink hit Jack square in the chest, right above his badge. It sizzled slightly, spreading into a strange mark that pulsed with blue light. Jack looked down at it, confused. What the hell? The crowd went silent. Versvaus mid-step. Her eyes went wide. You stood in the path. She said slowly, in deep accented galactic common. You were marked. Jack blinked. Yeah, thanks for that. Is this some kind of alien paintball? You almost took out my lung. But Varel wasn't listening. She dropped to one knee and bowed her head. Oh no, Jack whispered. This is bad, isn't it? 10 minutes later, Jack sat in a glowing cube chair inside the station's legal office. A small floating orb was explaining something in a calm, robotic voice, by ancient Zaglan tradition. The act of tagging with sacred ink of bonding marks the target as a consort or life companion. As you did not dodge, interfere with, or reject the ritual marking, it is considered accepted under matronate law. Jack stared at the orb, then at Virel, who stood beside him looking, annoyed. Not embarrassed, not sorry, just annoyed. Me get this straight, Jack said. Because she missed her actual target and hit me, I'm now married. The orb beeped. Technically, you are now her war husband, a ceremonial title that grants her new legal status and binds you in. A temporary bond. Temporary? How temporary? Duration. Until the trial of proving is completed. Jack leaned back. Great. So not only am I married by accident, I also have to pass some kind of alien test. Virel crossed her arms. You interfered in a clan challenge? Now you are part of it. This is our law. I was trying to help, and now you will help as my consort. Lucky for you, I did not choose someone weak. Jack groaned. This couldn't be happening. Later that day, Jack walked beside Varel through a long corridor toward her shuttle. Zakellan guards stared at him with confusion and some amusement. He could hear them whispering. Is that her husband? He is ... small. He doesn't even have horns. Jack whispered to her, this is nuts. I don't even know your favorite food, and suddenly I'm your space husband. Varel didn't smile. It was your fault. But you are here now, and you will survive. Survive what exactly? The proving grounds. Jack stopped walking. What is that? A gym? Varel looked at him calmly. It is a series of tests to prove you are worthy. If you fail, I lose my status. You may also be executed. Back on Earth 1 hour later, the Earth's ambassador's office was in chaos. He did what? Ambassador Kareem shouted, staring at the report. Accidentally. Married a Zakalon war commander by stepping into a tagging duel, said the aide, trying not to laugh. This is a diplomatic disaster. Or, maybe... ... Not Kareem looked at the map of matronate territory. If he survives this bond, Earth could gain alliance status with one of the strongest clans in the outer sectors. She leaned back and smiled. Maybe this Morrison kid just saved us months of talks. Back on the shuttle, Jack sat in silence as the shuttle lifted off. Varel handed him a folded piece of armor. What's this? Hey, your training begins tomorrow. Wear this. Can't we talk this out? No, you are my husband. You must prove yourself. Jack sighed. At least tell me one thing. What? Do I get a say in naming our kids? Varel raised a brow. First survive, then we discuss. The shuttle flew toward her warship. Jack looked out the window at the stars and whispered, "This is going to be a long marriage." Jack Morrison had slept in some strange places before: a jungle tent in South America, a freezer container during a spaceport strike, and once inside a broken escape pod. But this alien warship was something else. The walls of the Zakalon starbarge looked like smooth bones. Lights glowed from cracks in the metal, and the floor rumbled beneath his boots. Everything smelled faintly like burnt oil and sharp herbs. Jack felt like he had walked into the belly of a giant dragon. This place could use a window, he muttered. Commander Varelsu ignored his complaint as she walked ahead, her silver armor clicking with each step. Long violet cape flowed behind her like smoke. They entered a chamber filled with tall warriors in matching armor. They all turned to stare at Jack. Terran consort, one of them growled. Is that him? He looks soft, said another. I've seen stronger. Limbs on a swampfish. Jack smiled politely. Hi, I'm Jack. I'm not used to being called a husband on day one, but here we are. No one laughed. Varel raised a hand. He is under my banner. Show respect. The warriors bowed slightly, but didn't stop glaring. Felt like a chicken tossed into a lion's cage. Varel turned to him. You must earn their approval. Tomorrow, training begins. You will prepare for the trial of proving, Jack sighed. Can't we do a written test? I'm great at multiple choice. Training begins the next morning. Jack stood in a stone courtyard with two Zekalin trainers. One was tall and thin, with eyes like ice. The other looked like a living rock, the thin one. Instructor Kelta pointed to a pile of weapons. Choose. Jack picked up a short staff, light, easy to swing. The rock-like alien trainer Gron grunted, too light. You won't last 2 minutes in combat. Jack spun it around. I prefer speed. They laughed. Kelta nodded. We'll see. What followed was several hours of Jack getting tossed, flipped, and slammed into the ground. Again and again. His arms ached. His legs screamed. He had bruises in places he didn't know could bruise. But Jack didn't quit. He gritted his teeth, learned fast, and used tricks the aliens didn't expect. Like faking a limp to catch his opponent off guard, or distracting them with words during a sparring match. Do you guys ever smile? He asked during a break. Kelta stared. Scalons do not waste energy on foolish emotion. Scalon, Jack smiled. You'd hate karaoke night on Earth. A private talk that evening. Virel called Jack to her chamber. It was quiet inside, with soft lights and a huge war map glowing on the table. You did not die today, she said, pouring a drink. Thanks for noticing. She handed him a silver cup. It fizzed like soda, but tasted like spicy tea. You were clever in the ring, she said. You lack strength, but you think quickly. Jack leaned back. I grew up in a rough city. Fights weren't about muscles. They were about timing. Varel sat across from him. Why did you not run? You could have asked your people to remove you from the bond. Jack looked serious now, 'cause it would make Earth look weak. If I bailed, we'd lose face. We're the new kids in the galaxy. First impressions matter. Varel studied him. You understand honor, even if you speak? Like a fool, Jack raised his cup. Cheers, Commander. For the first time, she smiled. A little trouble in the ranks the next day. As Jack trained again, he noticed whispers among the warriors. A group led by a scarred soldier named Torak watched him with narrow eyes. That night, Jack returned to his chamber to find his bedding burned and his gear soaked. He sighed. Great space bullies. Torak appeared in the doorway. Leave before you shame her. You are not one of us. Jack stood up slowly. You want me gone? Beat me in the ring tomorrow? Torak smirked. Agreed. The challenge the next morning, the courtyard was full. Even Varel watched from the balcony. Torak entered wearing heavy armor and holding a large energy blade. Jack wore his training. Suiton held a simple staff. The fight began. Torak charged. Jack dodged. Again and again, Jack used speed, tricks, and timing. He ducked, rolled, and swung at joints and weak spots. He didn't need to win by force, just by lasting. After 15 minutes, Torak started to tire. Jack saw an opening. He swept the alien's leg and pressed his staff to Torak's throat. "Still want to kick me out?" Jack said, breathing hard. Torak growled, then laughed. "You fight like a worm, but a smart worm." The crowd roared. Some even clapped. Virel nodded from above. "You have earned another day, Terran." Message from Earth later that night. Jack received a call from Earth Command. Ambassador Kareem appeared on a glowing screen. "Jack, we just got word. The Zaklan High Matrons are watching this bond closely. If you pass the trial, we may get alliance talks." Jack frowned. "And if I fail, we lose a possible ally, and you may get executed. No pressure." "Great, thanks for the pep." "Talk. Hang in there, Lieutenant. You're making history." End of the day. Jack sat in his room, sore but alive. Virel visited briefly, handing him a roll of alien healing bandages. "You may survive after all," she said. Jack raised an eyebrow. That sounded almost like a compliment. Virel looked at him. "You're still stuck with me, Terran." Jack smiled. "And you're stuck with me? Let's see who survives longer." She left. Jack leaned back and looked up at the alien ceiling. Space married to a 7-foot warrior princess. What could possibly go wrong? Jack stood on a wide metal platform floating in open space. Well, almost open. A giant energy dome kept the oxygen in and the cold out. Stars blinked all around him like watching eyes. Alien warriors stood in a circle, silent and focused. Was it the trial of proving had begun? Commander Virelsu stood across from him in her ceremonial armor. Even now, she looked calm, sharp, dangerous. "You must pass 3 trials," she said. "One for strength, one for strategy, one for sacrifice." Jack nodded slowly. "So, like school exams, but with weapons." Virel didn't smile. "The first challenge is simple. Survive the fight." It didn't sound simple at all. The strength trial. Jack stepped into the ring. His opponent was a massive beast of a warrior named Runvok, with 4 arms and armor made of something that looked like stone. Each step he took made the ground shake. Jack, in comparison, wore a light exosuit made by Zeklan engineers, at his usual sarcastic grin. The bell rang. Runvok charged. Jack rolled to the side and dodged, keeping his distance. He knew he couldn't win by brute force, so he used what he did have: speed, reflexes, and Terran tricks. He led Rune toward one of the platform's energy poles. As Rune swung, Jack ducked, causing the beast's massive hammer to hit the pole. Sparks flew. Jack jumped up and kicked the hammer backward, forcing Rune to stumble. The crowd gasped. Aryuan growled and grabbed Jack with one hand, lifting him off the ground. "Enough games, human." Jack grinned. "Game, buddy. You're losing." He kicked a hidden button on his belt. Tiny flash bomb popped in Rune's face. As the giant flinched, Jack twisted free and slammed his elbow into the side of Rune's neck, a weak spot he'd noticed earlier. With a final push, Rune fell backward with a thunderous crash. The platform rang with cheers. Some warriors looked shocked, others impressed. Virel simply said, "First trial, complete." Jack wiped sweat from his brow. 1 down, 2 to go. The strategy trial. The second trial took place inside a strange room made of mirrors and shifting light. It was a Zeklan AI maze, designed to test thinking, focus, and logic. The rules were simple. Find your way to the center before time runs out. At every wrong turn triggered traps, illusions, gravity shifts, or confusing sound blasts. Jack took a deep breath. "I'm not a genius, but I do like puzzles. The doors shut behind him. He moved slowly, touching each surface, watching how the reflections shifted. One hallway looked real, but was a dead end. Another looked dangerous, but led him safely forward. Then the AI started talking. You are too. Slow, it said in a smooth, cold voice. You will fail. Jack chuckled. You sound like my old gym teacher. Ah! The floor tilted suddenly. Jack rolled, landed in a glowing circle, froze. A clone of himself appeared, mocking him. Am stronger, it said. Smarter. Jack tilted his head. Well, I'm better looking. He turned away and walked backward into the wall, to everyone watching on the screens. It looked like he walked straight into solid metal, but the wall vanished. Jack had found the center. He stood alone in a silent, glowing chamber. Strategy trial complete, the AI said. Virel watched from above with narrowed eyes. He doesn't think like us, but he thinks fast. The final trial. Sacrifice. This trial was the hardest. Not physical, not mental. It was a test of the heart. Jack stood at the edge of a high platform over a pool of shifting blue fire. A cross. From him, tied to a pole, was Saratan Virel, second in command, and one of the warriors who had mocked. Jack, early on, the trial's rules were cruel. Save her, or step away and end the trial safely. If he saved her and failed, he'd die with her. If he walked away, he'd survive. He'd survive, and still pass. Virel did not speak. Jack looked at Sarah. Her eyes showed no fear, or only anger. Don't you dare help me, human, she growled. You owe me nothing. Jack sighed. You're right, don't, but I'm not doing it for you. He took a running jump. Fire blazed all around. Jack dodged the rising flames, unhooked Sarah's bonds, and tossed her toward the platform. She landed with a hard thud. Coughing, the fire surged toward Jack. He jumped again, barely grabbing the edge. Sarah hesitated for 1 second, then pulled him up. They lay on the ground, breathing hard. Final trial complete, the AI announced. The crowd cheered louder than before. Virel stared at Jack, something new in her eyes. Not amusement, not command. Respect. After the trial that night, the Zekalon ship held a quiet feast. No dancing, no wild parties. Just warriors, sharing food, nodding in silence, and giving small nods of approval to Jack. He sat beside Virel, his plate full of unfamiliar but taste-alien food. She looked at him. You chose to risk your life for Sarah. Jack shrugged. She's one of yours. That makes her one of mine, too. You passed all 3 trials, she said. The bond is no longer just law. It is earned. Jack looked down at the mark. On his chest, it glowed faintly. What happens now? He asked. Virel's golden eyes met his. Now, you are truly my consort. And now, the real challenges begin. Jack groaned. That wasn't the hard part, she smiled. No, Taran. That was just the beginning. Jack had survived 3 alien trials, been accepted mostly by an army of space warriors, and now wore the strange title of consort to Commander Virel Su. It still sounded ridiculous in his head, but the title came with responsibility and danger. Put this on, Virel said, handing him a sleek dark robe with silver lines. Jack frowned. I feel like I'm going to a wedding, ... or a funeral. It is the same to the High Matrons, she replied, adjusting her armor. They see alliances as permanent. No second chances. They were flying toward Zakalan Prime, the capital, planet, to speak with the ruling council. It was more than just a ceremony. Earth's future friendship with the Excalans depended on this meeting. One wrong word, and things could fall apart fast. Are these matrons friendly? Jack asked. Virel didn't answer right away. Finally, she said, they respect strength. Speak clearly. Don't show fear, and whatever you do, don't bow. No bowing. Just firm eye contact and pretend I'm taller than I am. Arrival at Scalan Prime, the shuttle landed on a platform made of black stone, surrounded by glowing trees and statues of famous warriors. Waiting at the entrance were 5 tall figures in dark green robes. Their faces were hidden behind golden veils, but their presence was powerful. These were the High Matrons, the final authority of Zeklan society. One of them stepped forward. Her voice was deep and clear. "Commander Virelsu, you return with the Terran?" "He has passed the trials," Virel answered, "with skill, courage, and honor." The matron turned to Jack. "And you, Terran, do you understand the bond you have entered? You are joined in union not only with our bet, with our people." Jack nodded. "I understand, and I don't take it lightly." Another matron asked, "Will you stand beside her if war comes? Will you protect her as she protects you?" Thought for a second, then spoke firmly. "Yes, I didn't choose this life, but I choose to honor it." The matrons looked at one another silently, and turned and walked toward the great hall. "Follow," Virel said. Jack whispered, "No. Pressure, right?" The hidden threat inside the great hall, the talks began. The matrons questioned Jack and Virel about Earth. Military strength, shared goals, and even food culture. Jack did his best to answer clearly, and sometimes even made them pause with Earth. Sayings like, "Back home, you say you don't marry someone unless you're ready to fight side by side with them in a zombie apocalypse." The matrons didn't laugh, but one of them tilted her head. Possibly amused, then something strange happened. A whisper echoed through the chamber, so faint only Jack seemed to notice. He leaned closer to Virel. "Did you hear that?" She frowned. "No, what?" But before he could explain, a new figure entered the chamber. A tall Scalan warrior with a silver mask. "I bring urgent news," the warrior shouted. "A Terran ship approaches, unmarked, refuses to respond." Jack blinked. "That's not Earth Command." Virel's eyes narrowed. "It may be a trap." A dangerous game back on the command deck, Virel and Jack watched the ship approach. It was sleek, black, and definitely human-built, but older. More aggressive in design? Pirates, Jack guessed? Rogues from old Earth colonies? Or someone trying to make us look weak, Virel said. The matrons watched from the war table. "Your bond is tested, Terran," one of them said. "Protect our world or prove yourself false." Jack took a deep breath. "All right, let's do this." The Intercept Mission A squad of Zeklan fighters launched toward the rogue ship. Jack rode with them, strapped into a cockpit beside Virel. She piloted like a storm fast and exact as they neared the vessel. It powered up its weapons. "They're not here to talk," Virel said. "They're here to embarrass us," Jack added. The enemy ship fired. The squad scattered, Jack pointed. "They're its engines. We take those out, it can't escape or reach the planet." Virel nodded and peeled off toward the target. "Good call, consort." Still getting used to that word. Boarding and truth after a tense battle, they disabled the ship and boarded it. Inside, Jack and Virel moved through dark halls, weapons ready. The crew inside wore mismatched armor, definitely human, but rough. Mercenaries. Jack found a command terminal. He pulled data while Virel secured the bridge. What he found shocked him. "These guys were paid," Jack said. "To crash the meeting, fake an attack, make Earth look like the enemy." Virel joined him. "Who would do that?" Jack stared at the file. Another faction, one that doesn't want Earth and Scala working together. This wasn't random. Jaw tightened. "Then we exposed them. Together." Return and honor back on Zeklan Prime, Jack handed over the data to the matrons. They reviewed the files in silence. Then one of them stood. "You were tested beyond our design," she said, "and still you stood with your mate. You warned us, you defended us." Another matron added, "Earth has earned our respect, and so have you." Jack Morrison placed a silver crest on his robe, a mark of honor. Virel turned to him later and said, "Few Terrans would have stood their ground." Jack smiled. "Few Terrans got accidentally married to a 7-foot warrior princess. I'm making the most of it." She gave him a rare, genuine smile. "You're learning." Jack Morrison never thought being accidentally married to an alien commander would lead to meetings with high councils, space battles, and sneaky political traps. But here he was, A few weeks had passed since the incident with the fake Tehran warship. Thanks to Jack's quick thinking, Earth and Zakala were now officially allies. Virel had been honored by her people, and Jack, well, Jack had earned a reputation. Some called him the clever consort. Others simply said, the Terran who thinks sideways. He didn't mind either. The new threat one morning. Jack was in the war room of the Zekalon capital, staring at a map filled with blinking red points. These aren't normal pirate raids, he said. Virel stood beside him, arms crossed. They are coordinated. To exact, someone is guiding them. They strike cargo lines, patrol routes, communication towers, Jack added. They're choking the borders slowly. The matrons were watching closely. Who gains from this? Chaos, one asked. Virel answered. The Gorvek Syndicate. They profit from fear. They want to weaken both Scala and Earth. But someone is feeding them intel, Jack said. Look at the timing of the attacks. They knew where our patrols would be. That meant only one thing. A traitor. A secret mission later that night. Jack and Virel walked along a quiet garden path, lit by soft green lights. Virel rarely showed emotion, but tonight her face was tight with worry. If there is a traitor, she said softly, they are close to the council. Someone trusted. Jack looked at her. You think it's one of your own commanders? She didn't answer, but the silence spoke loud enough. I'll help, Jack said. Virel raised an eyebrow. You are not a soldier. I'm something. Better, Jack said with a grin. Unimportant. No one notices the consort in the corner. That night, a secret plan was made. Jack would attend an upcoming diplomacy event where high-ranking officials from across Sea Scala would gather. Virel would play her part in public. Jack would observe in the shadows. The gathering in the hall was bright and loud. Dozens of alien leaders spoke, laughed, and drank glowing blue liquid. Jack stood near a decorative pillar. Dressed in a simple robe, a small earpiece hidden under his collar. Virel mingled among the guests like a queen in her court. You seeing this? Jack whispered into the cum. I see everything, Virel replied from across the room. But Jack noticed something strange. One official, a tall, pale warrior named Commander Dravax, kept glancing toward a door that led to the archives. He tapped a ring on his finger 3 times. Moments later, another Zekalon slipped through the door and vanished. Jack's instincts kicked in. I'm following him, he whispered. Be careful, Virel warned. Jack moved quickly, blending into the flow of servants. He slipped into the side hallway and followed the second figure down a spiral path lined with old data cores. Finally, the stranger stopped in a dark room and activated a whole-dash screen. Jack hid behind a column and listened. We strike in 2 cycles, the stranger said. Send the encryption codes. The Gorvek ships must be in position before the next convoy leaves. There was a beep. The message was sent. Jack hit record on his device, heart pounding. Suddenly, dash creaked. The figure turned. Who's there? Ran. The alarms rang across the hall. Virel heard them and turned sharply. He's in danger, she said, and sprinted toward the archives. Meanwhile, Jack dodged between columns and ran down a narrow hall as blaster fire shot past him. One bolt grazed his shoulder. He bit down a cry. He turned a corner and found himself trapped. No doors, no vents, just a wall. The traitor stepped forward, raising a weapon. This didn't have to involve you, Terran. Jack smiled weakly. Funny. I say that to myself every day. Just then crash. The wall behind Jack exploded. Virel stood in the smoke, sword in hand. You'll not harm my consort, she said coldly. The traitor raised his blaster to slow. With one clean strike, Virel knocked him unconscious. Jack coughed through the dust. You always arrive just in time? She looked down at him. You are not just a clever consort. You are brave. Jack winced, holding his shoulder. Next time, can we just spy from a distance? The truth comes out. The next day, the high matrons watched the recorded messages Jack had captured. Commander, Dravex was exposed and stripped of rank. His co-conspirators were arrested. The Gorvex plot was stopped before it could bring full war. You have done more than survive, one matron said to Jack. You have defended Zekala from within, another added. Perhaps there is wisdom in this human bond after all. Stood quietly beside Virel, feeling more like a part of the team than ever before. Virel turned to him afterward. You do not act like a warrior, Jack Morrison, but your courage makes others stronger. Jack gave her a small smile. What husbands do, right? She looked at him for a moment, then nodded. Yes, and you are becoming a fine one. Later that night, in their shared quarters still awkwardly furnished for two very different species. Jack sat on the edge of his bunk thinking. Virel stood near the window, watching the stars. You didn't have to come save me, Jack, said Virel. Turned you are my consort. Yeah, but that's just a law thing, right? She paused. It was not anymore. Jack's heart skipped. For a moment, they just looked at each other. No armor. No council. No war. Just a human and a Zekalon. Learning to trust. Jack Morrison stood at the center of the Zekalon council chamber again. This time, no one questioned why he was there. He had proven himself not just as Virel's consort, but as a man of courage, ideas, and loyalty. The traitors had been caught. The enemy's plans stopped. Earth and Zekala were united, but peace never stayed quiet for long. Emergency signal, a guard called out. A Gorvex fleet is approaching the outer colonies. One of their warships is heading straight for Earth. The council turned to Virel. The Gorvex know their plans failed, she said. Now they strike in anger. Jack stepped forward. We have to stop them before they reach my planet. Virel gave him a sharp look. You wish to fight? I'm not a soldier, Jack said. But Earth is my home. I won't sit here and do nothing. One of the matrons nodded. Then you will go. Together.
Ow!
Preparing for battle inside the hangar, Zekalan warriors boarded their ships. For the first time, Earth and Zekala prepared to fly side by side. Jack stood in a Zekalan command suit, specially fitted to his smaller size. It felt strange, but he wore it with pride. Virel walked beside him, adjusting her armor. You stay behind me in the field, she said. No promises, Jack replied. She turned her eyes to him. You are brave, Jack Morrison. But you are not invincible, he smiled. Neither are you. That's why we watch each other's backs. They touched helmets, a gesture of unity in Skalan tradition. The final fight. The fleet jumped through space, appearing near the edge of Earth's system. And there it was, the Gorvex warship, massive, dark, and armed. This is Commander Virelsu of the Excalan fleet, she said through the coms. You are outnumbered. Turn back. The Gorvex captain laughed. You are too late. Earth will burn. Jack's voice cut in. Hey, Metalface. I'm human, and I say you've picked the wrong home to mess with. That caught the captain off guard. Then dash chaos. Fighters flew in tight lines, firing energy bolts. Excalans moved like dancers in a storm. Earth ships, smaller but fast, zipped between enemies. Jack rode in the command seat beside Virel, calling out enemy patterns and watching radar. There, he's sending boarding pods toward Earth Station. Virel gave the order. Intercept them. Protect the civilians. The sky lit up with blasts. Explosions rocked space. Inside the enemy ship, the Gorvex captain smiled. He activated a strange glowing device. Phase disruptor charging, he said. Target, Earth's core. The boarding. Team to stop the final weapon. Virel and Jack had to do the unthinkable board, the enemy flagship. A small squad landed silently inside the massive ship. Jack held his breath the entire way. They moved through dark metal halls. Gorvex soldiers tried to stop them, but Virel's blade moved like lightning. Jack stayed close, using his scanner to find the disruptor. There he pointed. That room. Inside, the disruptor pulsed with blue energy. We don't have time to shut it down safely, Virel said. Jack looked around. Then we break it. He opened a control panel and began typing fast. Earth's tech was different, but not too different. If I overload the power loop and reverse the signal, it will explode, Virel said. Yes, Jack answered, but in the right direction. One last stand, as the disruptor charged. Gorvex soldiers flooded the chamber. Virel fought them off, while Jack kept working. Almost there. Just a few more seconds. A blaster bolt hit near him. The heat singed his arm. He cried out, but didn't stop. "Done," shouted. "Move." Virel grabbed him, pulling him behind cover. The disruptor exploded in a wave of light harmless to Earth, deadly to the Gorvex systems. The ship shook violently. "Time to go," Jack yelled. They ran back to the exit pod, barely making it out before the ship tore apart in space. Outside, the enemy fleet scattered leaderless, broken. Earth was safe. A hero's welcome back on Earth. The people cheered as the fleet returned. Jack stood beside Virel, this time not as an outsider, but as a hero. Earth's president shook his hand. "You saved the planet. Yeah, you earned this alliance." Virel nodded in agreement. He has also earned Zekala's trust. The news spread quickly across the stars. The human and the alien commander, once strangers now, stood united. Not just by accident, but by choice. A quiet moment later. In a quiet garden overlooking the sea, Jack and Virel sat side by side. No weapons. No council. No war. "I thought you hated Earth's weather," Jack joked, watching the waves. Vir looked out. "It is noisy, but peaceful." Jack laughed. "That's one way to put it." They sat in silence for a moment. Then she asked, "If you had a choice back then, before the tag would you still have taken my hand?" Jack looked at her, really looked. "I think I would have hesitated. You were scary." She nodded. "I was. But yes," he said. "I'd still choose you. Alien rules and all." She smiled, a real one. "Then I choose you too, Jack Morrison. Not just by law. By heart." They didn't need a ceremony, or more trials. That one moment in the soft light of two worlds coming together was enough.